Uh, So good afternoon and welcome to all the participants and our esteemed speaker of this afternoon session. I would like to introduce a speaker to all of you. Sir Vinod Bhupati has completed his bachelor's degree BTech from Krishna Jyoti Institute, Warangal, and MTech from JNTU College of Engineering, Karimnagar. And Sir has already a teaching experience as assistant professor in BITS College, Narsinpet, and assistant professor in Vardhaman College of Engineering for 4 years. Sir has also worked as system admin in TSPSC, Telangana State Public Service Commission, and presently Sir is working as system admin in one of the world's leading bank. And among his skill set is Unix administration, clusterization, DevOps, AWS, and Azure administration. And for the 3 days in this FDP afternoons, Sir is going to be the key speaker for us, who is going to give us the complete exposure of hands-on on various tools of AWS. Vinod sir, I welcome you to this session and over to you, sir.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. Everyone, is it audible?
Yes, sir, you're audible,
yes,
sir.
Yes. So I just want, ma'am, everyone, can you unmute every participant?
Yes, yes.
I just want to have some one-to-one interaction for a few minutes.
Participants can unmute themselves, sir.
Yeah,
all participants, please, you are requested to unmute yourself. Sir wants to discuss with all of you.
Okay. I can see like a lot of doctorates and a lot of esteemed people who are on the session. Just a small information I want to know is how do you all use these cloud services from your day-to-day life? Anyone? Hello.
Dr. Kalpana, ma'am, would you like to speak, ma'am?
Yeah, good afternoon, ma'am. Good afternoon, sir. Actually, I'm speaking from Pune, Indra School of Business Study. So, if you just asked me like when I used to do cloud, for saving PPT, sharing my college-related documents, only for college purpose, I use cloud computing, data storage kind of thing. So, not much more that, sir.
Okay. Have you been okay?
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, good afternoon,
sir. Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah, my Dr. Prakash is speaking. I know, just suppose we use Google. Google also provide the space on the server. That is also an example of a cloud. And second, when you access the location or the map, I think so. It's also an example of a cloud.
Okay.
Yeah. There are a lot of examples.
Okay.
Besides, basically, which I know that cloud is the virtual resource where we can put any application or like that we can access it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So application part comes like all the applications today's on Google or on a Gmail or anything apart. Those all the services are registered on the cloud itself. The basic thing what we do every day is like for example Amazon Amazon Web Services like how this Amazon Web Services we are going to deal with Amazon Web Services and how it is going to how it is going to like that particular Amazon Web Services cloud services, how it is working on our day-to-day life and what all different applications. For example, I can give you one example, Netflix. So like there are n number of people browsing for every time. And did you find a quality change or anything when you're browsing or when you're watching a movie on Netflix? No, because see, based upon the number of users, based upon the number of traffic, based upon the more amount of traffic, the application is being provided. The services is being provided. So how it is possible without any downtime or without any interference, how it is happening? That is all because of cloud. And only one last question I just want to know. There are a number of applications we are using for day to day. All the applications of 90% which we are using today are moved into cloud. And still a lot of organizations are working on it to move it to cloud. One query I just want to is, are we really working with our students on a cloud? Any projects or any applications, are we really working with making our students to work on cloud? LMS, okay. Can you be more clear, sir? AWS, okay. What model deployed on a cloud? It is you deployed model. It's on a public cloud or private cloud, sir? Okay, you made it on a public cloud. Okay, AWS. Okay, okay. I just don't want to move into directly into a session, and this today, like what we are going to do is we are going to have some hands-on sessions on some AWS topics, and we will go in a small incremental way. And one thing I want to make clear is, see, we are all teaching fraternity. We know how how the vast AWS or any cloud is, and I'll just cover you a small part of AWS topics where we can make our students to deploy their applications on themselves. So this will have a small hands-on, and before that, I just want to know, from day to day. We'll go in an incremental way, and I guess you already got some information from the coordinator to register on AWS. Everyone is done. Yes. Okay. So before that, all the introduction part everyone is doing. So I just want to focus only two things. One is about what a public cloud and what a private cloud is. So public cloud is something that infrastructure is, so all the whole infrastructure is located on the web. Can you see it, sir? So all infrastructure is located on a different part. It's not on a building. And what a private cloud is, it is located within a particular region, or it is located within a particular region within a particular specific. And this hybrid cloud is a combination of a public cloud and private cloud. So public cloud, we'll discuss something about Amazon Web Services, Microsoft Azure, and many more public clouds. And private clouds is most of the companies who maintain their own cloud parts. So what cloud services they are providing, it is specific to their network itself. It is specific to their organizations itself. And this public cloud is open to all the people, and you can access this public cloud services from all over the part of the world. And this hybrid cloud is combination of a public cloud and private cloud. I'll just give you a small example of how a hybrid cloud will be. For example, I'm working to one of the banking sector, and where some part of my services, for example, if I want to view my payslip, if I want to view my details, basic details, which are not confidential, that can be viewed, that are posted on a public server. And if there is some secure transactions, if there is some other part of the information that is posted onto a private cloud. So the organization maintains both the public servers and the private servers. So public servers which are visible to the outside world, which can be accessed from the outside world, and private cloud which are not accessed from the outside world. It can be only accessed within their networks. So we are going to, so if you want to access that particular private servers, we are supposed to log on to that particular private networks, that particular private networks. After that only we can access that particular servers, that particular instances. So And the other one is I want to discuss is infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, software as a service. I'm not going to explain what these are, but at the end of the session, like 1 or 2 today or tomorrow, we can know. Will come back to this particular slide. What was infrastructure as a service in AWS? What was a platform as a service in AWS? And what was a software as a service in AWS? And these are the top 10 cloud service providers day to day. These are right now in 2020 and 2019, 2018. These are the top leading service providers which are providing services to the various organizations and companies. And even to the people also, common people who can access. And so this was a Gartner survey in 2020 and 2019, and these are the here we can see AWS was the first to launch in 2006, and Azure it came in 2010, but it has been into the market with many services. But most of the organizations still still on AWS because the number of services provided by AWS are very more, and compared to that of Azure. But even Azure was also into the market now, and they are providing with a different strategies. When we are learning few topics, how Azure was overcome and how AWS was into that. So right now, before that, I just want to show. So this was registered by everyone, right? So for the first topic for AWS is regions and availability zones. So what is region and what is availability zone? Now, AWS has 24 regions and 77 availability zones. What is this regions and what is this availability zone? I'll just show you on this particular AWS website. You can see I have selected Oregon region. There are 24 regions where AWS has kept its data centers on 24 different locations in the world. So each and every region provides all the services. And some services may not be available in one region, some services are available in other region. And US West Oregon and US East Ohio are both the regions which was first developed and where all the services are available on today's today. And each region like each hello. Hello.
Yes, sir, you're audible, sir.
Yeah. So each region will have a multiple availability zone. For example, I'll just show you how it is. There are 24 regions and 77 availability zones at present. What AWS is doing is it is every year it is increasing the number of availability zones and a number of regions. And soon we are about to have 3 regions, one in Indonesia, one in Japan, and one in Spain. And how it shows is these are the different availability zones. And you can see few in North America, South America, and we can have few in Asian Pacific place. And these are the availability zones. These are the regions which are about to come. So, and every region will have multiple availability zone. What that mean is, I'll just show you how it will be is. We think it as an one region, and inside this region, AZ stand for availability zone, and for every region, this is a region, and for every region there are multiple availability zone, and all this all are these connected to all are these connected, and when one availability zone is down, you can have info, you can access from the availability zone. And to be sure, Amazon is very clear that it is 99.99%. There is no down in any availability zone. It is very clear. If there is any loss with this availability zone, and Amazon is ready to pay. And till today, from the launch of the Amazon Web Services, there was no down of a availability zone. But still, why these availability zones? How it can be worked? We'll just come to further. Now, I'll just want to create. Before that, we'll go with the EC2. So what EC2 is? EC2 stands for Elastic Cloud Compute. So EC2 is something like it's a virtual machine. How you create? So EC2 is a scalable computing capacity. Using EC2, your investment to hardware has been broadly down, and you can deploy any type of applications. You can deploy any type of services from EC2. For a simple example, I'll just give you. And for example, our basic computer will have all this. Like we'll have something called operating system, we'll have something called processing power, and we'll have something called storage, NIC card, firewall, RAM. In the same way, we can have a virtual machine. We can have a virtual machine that is called EC2 machine in AWS, and this particular operating system, you call it as an image, AMI, and it can have any type of operating system, same as of our normal machine. And you can have a processing power. You can increase your processing power, and the hard disk in your normal computer, you call it as an EBS in AWS. And basically for our computer, we'll have a NIC card. You call it as an IP addressing. The firewall, you call it as a security group in AWS, and the RAM, the same as RAM. So how it is different to that normal machine, how it is different to an EC2, we'll just discuss. So now we already have a computer, and if we want to increase, for example, if we are having a 160 GB of memory. Now, if you want to attach another 160 hard disk, what we are supposed to do? What we are supposed to do? We can add another 160 GB of hard disk to the hard disk. Can we do that? Yes or no?
Yes, we can add.
Okay. Does it require any downtime?
Yes.
Yeah, sure. Definitely, sir.
But AWS EC2 machines, we does not require any downtime. We can add any number of hard disks, we can add any number of processing power, or we can add any number of memory, RAM that is. So in order to increase the performance, we can add it simultaneously. How? We will just see. And before that, AWS EC2 is basically we can have machines in three different. We can purchase machines in three different types. Before that, we'll just launch a simple EC2 machine, and we'll see how it can be without downtime. How it can be added, the additional memory, how it can be added. We'll just see a small practical. So I'm into EC2 machine, and so I want to launch an instance, and I recommend everyone to use a free tier, because uh, other than the free tier, everything has to be paid. So I'll just select T2.micro machine, and let it be. What all these we'll discuss in the next time. And I have selected an Red Hat 8 machine, and I just want to see. I'll just see the minimum storage is 10 GB. Okay. I'll just give as name as EC2, and I'll just give it as an same, and I'll just see. So I want we'll go with a create a new pair, and I want to download okay. I'll just give as my key. And it is downloaded. You just save it onto a folder where you can easily access. So I'll just copy over here in the other drive. So I have created a key, and see, basically without this key, without this PEM file, we are unable to log into the machine. So if you are lost with this PEM file, it will be very difficult for us to log on to the machine. So most what we can do is we can share it onto our Gmail. We can sync it onto our Gmail or any other mails, and we can have access from anywhere. So that we can log on to machine from any part of the place. So it might not be to your home, or it is not required to log on to from your office itself. You can do it from anywhere. So I'll just launch the instance. And one thing is, we cannot have a graphical GUI or a graphical interface to view this particular machine. There can be, but it depends upon the organization, and right now it is not possible for us with a free tier one. So you can see this EC2, it's still not yet up, so it is running. Now I want to launch to this particular machine. Now how do I come in? Yes, sir.
Hello.
How do I log on to this particular machine? Now we cannot have a graphical interface. We just have a key file. We just have a this particular key file, and how we can log on to that particular system. Now this is a Linux machine. This is a Linux machine. So how we will do is, I just recommend everyone, if you are using a other than Windows 7, we will basically have a PowerShell. I just recommend other than PowerShell, we'll download a small software that is called GitHub for Windows. So I recommend everyone to download this particular small one. So I just recommend everyone.
Hello, sir. Sorry to interrupt you. Can I speak? Hello.
Yeah. Tell me, sir.
Sir, you are going, sir, very fast, sir. It is unable to, not able to understand how EC2 is created.
Okay.
So please go slow, sir. We are new to
Okay.
AWS.
Okay. So you can see this particular EC2, sir. on your account, you can see this particular EC2.
Yes.
Now I want to launch an virtual machine now. My voice is getting echoes. Can you please mute someone? Right. I just want to launch a EC2 machine. Just click on launch. Click on launch, and you can see n number of flavors that you can select. So just as a basic, we'll go with an Red Hat 8 machine. So I'll just select a free tier, and I'll just select this Red Hat 8 machine.
So where to find launch button?
EC2, sir. So just click instances. On the instances, you can see on the top side, you can see something called launch instance. Click on launch instance and select one operating system that you want to create. Select and select only free tier. And here you can see the number of CPUs. Like you can select any of these. You can create any of these. But as a free tier, we'll come here and we'll see what all these are. So just I'll create a virtual machine now. Click next, and you're not just changing any configurations. Just go for the next add storage, and this particular machine require minimum of 10 GB of hard disk. So again, click next, and just add a tag. Give a name, something you can give. My EC2 machine. I just given my name as my EC2 machine, and I'm going for the next, and I'm not making any changes. Only by default, one particular IP address is allowed, that is port 22. Then just click review and launch, and you can see all the features what you have selected. You have selected a T2 micro machine, and it is having a 1 GB of RAM, and it is having one CPU, and it is using something called elastic block storage. What all these will just come, and it is allowing only port 22, and its storage is only 10 GB, hard disk of 10 GB. So I'll just go for here, and I'll just click launch, and I'll create a key pair. I'll create a key pair for this particular machine, and my EC2 key pair. So you just give some name and just download it. After getting download, just go to the folder where you got it download. Go to the folder where you got it download, and you can just log in from here, or you can save it to a place where every time you can get it easily. I'll just go and I'll just copy this here, key pair over here. Now I have created this particular place. Now I have created a virtual machine now. Now I just click launch instance, and the following instance launches has been initiated. Just click here, and you can see it is pending. The instance is getting up. The machine is getting up. So you can see the list has 4 machines. Now my EC2 machine, it is running now. So I just this virtual machine has been created. Now AWS by default it is not providing any graphical user interface with this particular Linux machine. Now how do we log on to this particular virtual machine is, we'll basically do using SSH. We'll use something called secure shell to log on to this particular machine. So what a basic command is SSH and your IP address. Now if you are using this particular command, then what is going to happen? It will ask for a password. it will ask for a password. First, in order to do SSH, we need to have something called a putty, or we need to have some interface to connect to this virtual machine. Now, I'm not going with putty, or I'm not going with Windows PowerShell, because Windows 7 already have PowerShell, but it is not stable. So I just recommend everyone to use a software called GitHub. And
Excuse me, sir.
GitHub.
Vinod sir, sorry for
Yeah, ma'am.
interrupting, sir.
Yeah, ma'am.
Sir, participants actually want to know whether you are explaining the things and the hands-on will be done later, because your speed, they are not able to follow and do it simultaneously.
Ma'am, what I'll do is I'll just first launch a machine.
Okay.
Later they can do, and then they can ask the questions. I'm just going on a step by step. They can understand. So
Later on, again, please help them a little bit slow so that they will do on their own machines also.
okay,
Hello.
Oh, okay. Thank you, sir. This is a continuous question I'm getting in the chat box.
okay,
Okay, thank you, sir.
yeah. So first, everyone, what I want to do is you just concentrate what I'm doing, and later you can do that. You can launch that particular virtual machine. So
Yes.
I'm just. Is everyone clear till how I launched the virtual machine? How I launched a virtual machine?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, yes. Continuous.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. I launched a virtual machine. Now I just want to log on to that particular virtual machine. So this Linux machine, it does not have a graphical interface. So how do I launch? How do I log on to that particular virtual machine? Is by using something called Secure Shell, SSH. So Secure Shell, in order to do SSH Secure Shell, we use a software called putty, or we use something called a software called Windows PowerShell. So as everyone uses Windows machine, there is something called Windows PowerShell. You can use Windows PowerShell, but on a Windows 7, Windows PowerShell is not much stable. So I just recommend everyone to download a software called GitHub. So you just type GitHub for Windows, and you just go on to this particular site, and you can see a software called Download for Windows 64. Just do this and just save. Some GitHub will be it's simple, like it's a normal software. You just do it. It's something like a traditional software itself. So once after downloading that, you can install, and once you install, you can see you'll get an option. When you right click, you can see something called Git GUI here, Git Bash here. So this is something. This GitHub is providing something called a terminal from a Windows machine to connect to a virtual machine. So what I'm doing is, now I have a key pair. I have a software. I have a Git Bash. So what I'm doing is I want to log on to this particular machine. Now, basically, how we log on to a virtual machine, we use something called SSH and something called a name or IP address. So I have created a machine. Now I want to log on to this my EC2 machine now. How do I log on to this my EC2 machine is simply, I don't have any password now. I just have a key file that is called PEM file. So by using this particular PEM file, this is a private key. This is a private key for us. So by giving this particular input PEM file, we are logging onto that particular machine. So normal traditional how we log on is we'll give something SSH root or some user at the rate IP address or something called DNS. Anything we'll give, and we'll just log on to this particular virtual machine. Now what I'm doing is if you are doing this, we cannot log on to the machine. Now how do we log on to this machine? We just don't have the password. We have a key file. We have a private key that is called PEM file. By using this PEM file, we need to log on to that particular machine. So what I'll do is I'll do the same thing, but we'll give this input and we'll just log on. So what we are doing is SSH-I, and what is the key? My EC2 key pair .pem, and you are supposed to give username. And what is the username created here? I'll just see. The username is EC2 user. So EC2 -user @ I can give sorry. I can give this public IP over there. See, I have been logged on to this particular Red Hat machine now. Everyone, it is clear, sir? Hello, sir? Hello?
Yes, sir. Clear, sir.
Yeah, madam.
Sir, those are new that it is very hard to understand actually.
Yes, Vinod sir.
Okay, sir. Now what I have done, are you clear, sir? I have just downloaded a software GitHub. After downloading, I have just installed the software. I have not done install because this particular software is already on my machine. So I'll just go to the folder where I have this particular key file, where I stored this key file. And after installing, when you right click, you can see these two options, git GUI here, git bash here. So I'll use something called git bash here. So this is going to provide some terminal. This is going to provide some terminal where I can log on to this particular virtual machine. Is it clear, sir?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So what I have done is now we only have basically when we are logged on to this putty machine, we'll give something SSH, some username @ IP address to log on to this particular machine. But do we have any password? We don't have any password. Now we have only a PEM file, that is a private key. By using this private key, I need to log on to this particular machine. So what I'm going to do is, this is the traditional method we are using to log on to this particular machine. Now what I'll do is SSH-I. -I is nothing but it is going to take an input, and what input you are giving some key pair, this my EC2 key pair .pem, and what is the user that has been created to the virtual machine. If you want to know the username, just go to this particular machine, click on actions, just select connect, and you can see what username it has been created. It has been created a username called EC2-user. So all the virtual machines created by EC2 by selecting an operating system called Red Hat, we'll get a username called, by default we will get a username called EC2-user. So
ये phone ही चाल लिया.
EC2-user @ and you can give the IP address. So what is the IP address I just have to the machine is, go to this instances, select this instance, and you can see this public IP. So I'll just copy this particular public IP, and I'll just paste over here, and see, I have been logged on to this particular virtual machine. Everyone clear, sir?
Yes, sir.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
we can do later. We'll
Yeah,
practice.
yeah. In fact, honestly, I'm telling sir, Dr. Prakash Pathak is speaking. But already I have logged in AWS, but don't understand anything. Honestly, because
Sir?
yeah, it is a very informative technology, and I think everyone wants to learn AWS.
Yes, sir.
And yeah, so EC2 or what the meaning of it? I think so. I'm mostly participant don't understand, and I mean also don't understand about this honestly, because I am crazy to learn AWS.
Yes, sir. Now, what you understand, a EC2 machine? EC2 machine is something like virtual machine, sir.
Okay.
It is you are creating a virtual machine on a cloud. That is the cloud is AWS. On AWS, you are creating a virtual machine. That virtual machine you call it as an EC2, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And you got some information how I created this particular virtual machine.
Yeah, already I tried to do on AWS.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, later on, sir. Yeah, continue.
Yes, sir. Now I have created a virtual machine and I just logged on to this particular virtual machine. So I just want to see, I have created a Red Hat machine. I just see whether it has a Red Hat 8. So I have created a Red Hat 8 machine. See, this command is used to see what operating system it is running. And I have been onto the virtual machine now. Now, this virtual machine I have been created, but in order to create this virtual machine, we have gone we have select we have been to next we have given. But what was for a virtual machine? Like at the starting we discussed these all the things. Now I this particular memory is I said something you will have something called hard disk. RAM instance type. So in order to see all the features over here, you can select this particular tick and you can see all the features here, sir. You can see an IP address that is called IPv4 in order to connect to the internet. This particular IP, in order to connect to the internet, you will have something called a public IPv4 and a private IPv4. So every machine will have a public IPv4 and private IPv4. What this public IP and what this private IP is? Public IP is which we can use, which we can access to this particular machine from outside world. So if you are on, if you want to log on to this particular machine from outside world, you can use this public IP. And if you are already on to the AWS world, if you are already on an AWS machine and you want to access this particular machine, you will have this private IP. And by default, this public IP will be kept changed when you restart your machine. When you restart your machine, particular public IPv4 will be changed, and this particular public IP private IPv4 will not be changed until you are terminated. So until you delete this particular instance, you will have this private IPv4 itself. Is it clear, sir? So every virtual machine will have a public IP and a private IP. Now I have created a virtual machine. I just logged on to this virtual machine, and there are two types of IP addresses for every virtual machine, that is called public IP and a private IP. Just 1 minute. Hello. Everyone wants to create an EC2 machine, right, sir? And a hands-on. Is it audible, sir?
Please follow step-by-step procedure for creating the virtual machine from
Yes.
AWS. We are doing
Okay.
parallelly.
Okay. So everyone logged on to your AWS console. Yes. So I'll just give you a step by step how to create a virtual machine. I just want everyone to do in parallel. So first, what you're going to do is when you log on to your machine, when you log on to your console, you'll get this particular interface. First, what you are going to do is just select services and select in compute option. You just select EC2.
Sir, please wait for a minute, sir.
At least one speaker, two speakers. I just want Dr. Prakash. Are you able to follow? Can you follow one by one step and can you create a virtual machine?
Yes, sir. Just I am doing, sir, in a step by step, sir.
Okay, I'll just follow you, and
Yeah.
so that everyone will follow.
Thanks a lot, sir. Thanks a lot.
So you logged on to the this particular interface, sir.
Sir, tell them to share their screen so that they are going to be installing so that we can clearly pick any one participant and share screen so that they will be installing simultaneously and you
Yasmin,
can guide us.
Yasmin madam, can you share yours? I'll just stop my presentation and can you share yours? How you are doing?
Sir, you can pick someone, sir.
You are ready, right? You can do that.
Okay, sir.
I just stopped sharing. You can share. Aisha ma'am, can Yasmin can share the screen?
Yes, yes, sir. Everybody will have an option of present now at the bottom. They can present the screen, sir.
Yasmin ma'am, can you share your screen?
Yeah, sir. Sure.
Can you show us step by step? I'll just guide you.
Okay, sir. Sir, this is my screen, sir.
Yeah.
This is my AWS. Actually, I'm facing some problem.
You are facing some problem. I think your account is not ready yet. Okay.
Actually, I have done, sir. Amount also deducted, but I don't know. I was
You would have contact AWS support center. They will help you surely.
okay. That's why I'm saying to share someone else.
Okay. Dr. Prakash, can you?
Yes, sir. Tell me, sir.
Can you share your screen? I'll just.
No, why not? Sir, just.
One problem is if you are providing 4 to 5 cards and if you are unable to do that, just contact the support center. They are ready to help you. And if you are using an Indian Rupee card, somehow it's not accepting. Yes, sir. You can. Okay.
Yeah.
I can see you, sir. Just go to dashboard. Next.
Now I can stop sharing, sir.
No. I'll just tell you how to create a virtual machine step by step from here itself.
Yeah.
You just go to services on the top side. Right. Select EC2. Okay. On the left side, you can see something called instances. Select that.
Yeah.
We'll do how we'll create a virtual machine now. So you don't have any machine. We'll create a virtual machine now.
Yeah, lunch machine. Already I have clicked on it.
Okay. Now you can select any of the operating system. You will just go with Red Hat 8, sir. On the down.
Which one, sir?
Yes. So we basically select
Sir.
T2 micro machine itself. Okay. Everyone, are you clear up to here?
Sir,
Say
which
yes or no in
machine, sir?
comments.
Red
Yes,
Hat,
yes.
sir, we have to select a Red Hat, sir.
Any machine we can select, but I'm just telling everyone to do Red Hat 8. It's a basic one, so it will be very easy for us command based. So I just want to. So can you go for the next configure instance details? Down right side edge, yes. Now we are not making any configuration changes over here. We are going for next to storage. Add storage. And we are creating a virtual machine with an hard disk of 10 GB. Everyone. And then click next, sir. Add tags. Something you just add a tag name. Click to add a tag name on the top side. Yeah, anything, anywhere. Name, give as a key as name. Type name, NAME. Okay. On the value, you just give EC2. EC2. Okay, that is the name we have given. Then click on next. Configure security group. Now, by default, every virtual machine is having one default port enabled, that is called 22 port. So this is a Red Hat machine. In order to access this machine, by default, a port is enabled, that is called port 22. So we'll just make it only, and just then go to review and launch. Sir, right side, yeah. Review and launch. So this is the basic details, all the details we can see. So directly you can go on to launch. Okay. You don't have any key pair, you don't have any key. So choose on the drop down list, first you create a key pair. Create a new key pair. Give some names. Any name you can give. Prakash, okay. Download that key now. Click on download key pair. Okay. Okay, sir. Go to the folder where you have downloaded. So don't open the file. You just go to the folder where you have created the file. Click OK. Go to download, sir. Where the downloads folder. Yes. Yes, you can see the prakash.pem file over there, sir. Just copy it onto your. Okay, let it be, sir. You already downloaded GitHub. Sir, you already downloaded GitHub. Prakash. Sir, you already downloaded it, sir. Don't change the name, sir. Don't change the name, sir. Sir, I just want to know, sir, you already downloaded the software, sir, GitHub. Sir.
Excuse me.
Sir.
No, sir. I didn't download, sir.
Okay. Go to Google. Just type GitHub, GIT. T Hub, HUB space for Windows. Yes. Select the first ones.
This one, sir?
Okay. Yes, sir. Okay, download that one. I have installed the GitHub Bash shell.
Thanks a lot, sir.
Shekhar, can you see, Dr. Shekhar, can you see this? When you right click, you can see the two options which I told you, sir. Git bash here.
No, sir, actually. No. I'm not able to see that option, sir. Yes, sir.
You're not able to see that.
Yeah, I installed it previously when you said it first time.
Okay. Let's see.
I also installed the putty, sir.
Okay, you already have the putty.
Yeah.
You're able to connect to the virtual machine now?
No, sir. Actually, I forgot the steps for connecting through putty.
Okay.
I tried through the PowerShell, but it says it gives me an error regarding the security of the key, that PEM file.
Yeah, PEM file. Okay.
It gives me error regarding the security, and that's why he's not able to connect me.
Okay.
Sir, when I'm installing GitHub, it's asking sign in, sir.
For GitHub, sir?
When I'm installing GitHub, it is asking sign in.
Not required, sir. It doesn't require.
Have to open, sir?
Yes, sir. Open, sir. You just have to install that particular software. Shekhar, sir, can you try what I guess you have downloaded some other software. You select GitHub for Windows, I think, sir.
Yes, sir. GitHub for Windows, sir.
Yeah, GitHub for Windows. Is a software going on, sir? Download installation.
I think it's in process, sir.
It's in process. Yes, sir.
Sir, after installing, it is asking it is asking to create a new repository on your hard drive.
That is not required, ma'am. We are not creating any repository now. We just want this particular software to only for putty's purpose.
Okay.
Only for logging onto this software. So if your installation is successful, when you right click, you can see that particular option, get GUI here or get bash here. You can get that option, ma'am.
No, sir, we are unable to see that. It's directly after installation. It's directly going for adding a repository to GitHub desktop to start collaborating.
Actually, GitHub is a it's a version controlling tool where it acts as a repository where you can store the files on the repository and where you can retrieve the files from the repository.
So after installation, it's immediately asking for adding a repository to GitHub desktop.
Sir, separate window is opened, sir. Separate window is opened. In that window, it's having the separate like notepad like that. The options are there. File, edit, view, repository.
Yes, sir.
There are 3 options are there. Clone a repository from internet. Create a new repository on your hard drive like that.
Okay. No issues. After this session, I'll just share you how to get that particular features.
Okay, sir.
I think so. It's taking time, sir. So till here, everyone is clear. You have launched a machine, and now you want to access that particular machine. Dr. Prakash.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Some other time. Tomorrow we'll just go with your one-to-one. Can you stop sharing? I'll just show my presentation today.
Okay, thanks a lot, sir. Thanks a lot, sir.
Everyone is clear for till here.
Yes, sir. Sir, actually, they are installing the GitHub desktop, but you said we have to download the GitHub for Windows. The setup is different one. What Dr. Prakash sir has downloaded is another option, which is a GitHub repo, which we are using for coding. But for Bash shell that you are saying, we have to install GitHub for Windows. So I just installed it, and now I can see the Git Bash here option.
Okay. Can you share that particular link on the chat?
Yeah, sir. Just a minute, sir. Yeah. It's I think 48 MB of setup, sir. We can download it from here. Both the 32 and 64 what are available.
Okay.
I just shared the link, sir.
Yes.
Sorry to disturb you, sir. Can I ask you?
Yes.
After downloading the key pair, we have to launch instances.
Yes, sir. Yes. Sir, we have created a virtual machine. Now we have to log on to that particular virtual machine, right, sir? Yes, sir.
Sir, after downloading the key pair,
okay,
then we have to launch the instance, no?
Not required. Yes, sir. We have to launch the instance.
Yes,
sir.
After that, so you are saying that we have to store GitHub.
Yes. So you launch the machine. Once you launch the machine, you can see my screen, sir. Yes. Right now, sir. Hello. Can you see my screen, sir?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes,
so
yes, sir.
I have these 4 virtual machines created. Now what I want to do is I just want to log on to one virtual machine, something called my EC2 machine. I just want to log on. So select this particular machine, just go to actions, and select an option called connect. Once you select connect, at the last you can see something called SSH client. So at the last you will have a command called SSHI. So this command you will have. Select this complete, just click on here, it will copy the command, and just go to the git bash, just go to the folder where your PEM file is, just right click, just give something called git bash here, just select something called git bash here and just paste it here and press enter. Give S and you're on to the machine now. Just simply what I am doing is I am going to actions. I am selecting something called connect. On the connect, I am going to something called SSH client, and I am just copying the complete path. This is the complete command SSH-I, the key pair, and your complete username @ the DNS name, or you can also give the IP address of public IP or private IP of the machine in order to log on to this particular machine. Now copy this and just git bash here, just select git bash here and just paste over here, so that you can log on to the machine directly. Now I have been into the machine. Now you can see you are onto the machine now. Yes, sir. Everyone is clear?
Yes, sir.
Now
Yes, sir.
everyone is having a doubt. Then how basically this SSH is not enabled onto a Windows machine. Now, how do I do for a Windows machine? So I'll just quickly do how it will be for a Windows machine now. So again, go to services, EC2, select something called instances. Now I want to launch a Windows machine, select launch instances, then go down and select where you have a Windows machine. I have something called Microsoft Windows Server 2019.
Sir, share your screen, sir. Share your screen, sir.
It's not visible, sir?
Yeah, it's visible, sir.
Yeah, it's visible, sir.
Visible only, sir.
Yes. Now select some Windows machine. Go by default settings. Go by default what you was doing for a Linux. Just select next, next, and basically for a Windows machine, the minimum size is 30 GB. Just I want to add a name, something called Windows. Just configure and see. Now Windows is not having a SSH. Previously for Linux machine you was having an SSH. Now for a Windows you are having something called an RDP. What this RDP is? Remote desktop. So you are having something called a remote desktop. By using remote desktop only you can log on to this particular Windows machine, and RDP by default uses a port called 3389, and what this is for further we'll just come to know what the source is. Just go for review and just click on launch. Again it is asking something called a security key pair. So I'll just choose an existing key pair. I'll just select this and I am using my AWS key pair. So just
Sir, please use new one, sir.
Okay. I'm just creating a new key pair. I'm calling it as an Windows. I'm just downloading a key pair. So I have downloaded the key pair. I'm just selecting an option called launch instances.
So key pair should be different.
You can use the existing key pairs also. Not required. One key pair you can use for n number of machines. But if that particular key pair is lost, it is very difficult. There is a large process in order to get the key pair back from the Amazon. So that is not so easy. And once you create a key pair, if you create a single key pair or multiple key pairs, it is better to share it onto our own drive, or it is better to share onto our Gmail or some access what we are basically use for day to day for sharing. Now see, you can see something called Windows. It is in a running state. Now I want to connect to this particular Windows machine. How do I do? Just select this button, just select this and go to actions, and there is an option called something called connect. Now go to RDP and you download a small software called RDP software. Just click and click save. So go here, select this RDP. It will ask you this particular feature. Just select connect. Now it is asking for a password. Yes, sir. It is asking for a password. Now how do we get password? We have a password over here. We have a password. We have a key file. We have a PEM file, but we don't have a password. Just click on get password.
Sir, it's asking to wait for 4 minutes before trying to retrieve the auto-generated password after launching an instance.
Okay. Yeah, basically it takes time, sir. Now you don't have the password. So how we get password is actions, get Windows password.
Yeah. It shows me right now, sir. It gives the option of decrypt password or key pair path. It's asking for key pair path.
Yes, can you share your screen, sir? It takes time for me. Who is that?
Just a minute, sir. I'm Shekhar Kausale from Shady, sir.
Yes, sir. Can you share your screen, sir, now? I'll just comment.
Yes, yes, sir. I have shared, sir. Can you see it?
Yeah, I can see, sir. I can see, sir. Now,
It shows here. It
choose
shows me like this.
the file, sir. Click on choose file.
So this was the key pair I have generated for Windows, sir. I have generated
Yes.
separate key pair.
Yes, sir. Then click open. You just give something called decrypt password,
Yeah, here I got
and
the
you
password.
you get the password.
Yes,
Copy it onto the notepad, or just copy and click close here. Yes. And on the RDP, you just give this particular password.
Yes, sir. This is the RDP window. Okay.
Click OK. And click yes.
Yeah.
Now you are logging onto an Windows virtual machine now.
Yes, sir. The GUI is loading right now.
So that is basically how we launch onto a Windows machine. Directly we are giving a path file of a Linux, and we are just logging in by using SSH. But in order to get onto a Windows machine, we have to give something called we have to give the path of the file. Then we have to decrypt the password. We have to get the password. We have to go on to RDP. We have to paste the password over there. Then only we can launch onto that particular virtual Windows machine. Is it clear, sir? Everyone?
Yes, sir. We are just logging. Can you see the screen, sir?
Yes. So can you stop sharing, sir?
Yes, sure. Thank you.
Again, in order to remove confusion, I have created sorry, I have not yet shared. Can you see my screen, sir, now?
Yes, sir.
Can you see?
We can
Yes.
see.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Now, once again, I'll show you how you would log on to the Windows machine is. Go to running instances. I want to log on to this particular Windows machine. Select Windows. Select Windows. First, in order to log on to Windows, we need to have two things. One is an RDP, a remote desktop, and the other one is password. So first, we'll get an RDP. How we get an RDP is just click on connect and go to RDP. Just download this remote desktop file. You'll get a small file. You'll just get a small file, download, and on the downloads you can see this file. Once you click on that, you will get this particular file. You just click on open file, connect. Now you can see it is asking for a credentials of this particular virtual machine. So you need a password. You are on RDP now. Just minimize and again go to EC2 running instances. Now you got RDP. Now you require password. Select Windows. Go to actions. Select get Windows password. Now to the Windows, I just need a password. So click browse and go to the folder where we have the PEM file. Give the PEM file which we have given. For the Windows, I have given a PEM file called Windows. Select this PEM file. Click as open. Now you can see some private key. Just leave it and just select the option called decrypt password. Now you can get the password. Just copy it. You will have an option called copy. Just copy this, and just go again for the RDP. Just paste over here and just click OK. So I am into my Windows virtual machine which I have been created now. Everyone is clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Yes.
Yes, sir. Yes,
On
sir.
the text. Okay. If your payment, if you are facing some problem with the console, if it is not getting this complete AWS console page, just contact the support center. They might help you how to get that problem, how to get resolve that particular problem. You just contact the support center. They will help you. And I always recommend everyone to use a Visa credit card or a Visa debit card at the time of making that particular ₹2 transaction. Yes. So we just launched 2 machines, but what was happening? We were discussing something about EBS, RAM, instance type. Now I'm just going to my machine, and I'll just select my EC2 machine, and it is having so every EC2 machine will have a public IP and private IP. Everyone is clear this particular thing. Everyone is clear this particular. See, this public IP is not similar to that of other machine IP. And one thing I'll do is I'll just log off this particular machine, and what will happen to this public IPv4 and private IPv4 we'll see. So I'll just take a snapshot. So my EC2 machine, I'm just taking a snapshot in order to know the IP address, public IPv4 and private IPv4. So what I'm doing is I'm just going to action, and onto the instance state, I'm just stopping the instance. Only my EC2 machine I'm stopping now. So click on instances. You can see instance state, it is stopping. So it takes 2 to 3 minutes, just 2 minutes to stop the machine. Now you can see the machine is stopped. You can see this public IP now. We cannot see the public IP, but we can see the private IP. Now, once again, I'll start this particular machine. Instance state, start machine. Just click refresh. Now, the machine is starting. Now you can see a public IP. What was my previous public IP? It was 54.201.79.146. Now my public IP is 34.223.249.80. And what was my private IP? It was same as it is before itself. So what is happening when you are creating a virtual machine? You are getting 2 public IPs. You are getting 2 IPs. One is public IPv4 and the private IPv4. Public IPv4 gets changed when you are restarting a machine, and private IPv4 is not changing even you are restarting the machine. Now, why we are discussing this public IPv4 and why we are using this word called private IPv4? What is happening even if we are public IPv4 is changing? What is happening? So we'll discuss a small scenario. What public IPv4 and what private IPv4 can be done is, Now, what I'm doing is I'm creating a virtual machine on a cloud, and what I'm doing is this virtual machine, EC2 machine, I'm launching an application. I'm launching an application, and these are the people who are connecting to this virtual machine. And what I'm doing is I'm sharing a small file or a drive. I'm sharing. I'm using something called NFS, network file sharing, or I'm creating something called a database. And what I'm doing is I'm sharing some part of this particular EC2 machine to all the people in the outside world. These are the people who are connected from the outside world, and they want to access. This is from the outside world, and this is onto the Amazon. This virtual machine is created on the AWS platform. This is AWS platform. On an AWS platform, you have created a virtual machine. That virtual machine, you call it as an EC2. You are naming it as an EC2, and by using EC2, something you're sharing some drive, or you're sharing a database. Anything you're doing. Now, all the people are connecting from the outside world by this particular application by using something called, for example, if you are using HTTP. We are launching some Tomcat server, or we are using some Apache server on this particular EC2 machine to share our files, or we are using some database, and we are sharing it to the outside world. Now, this particular sharing is already linked to the particular user. Now, what happened is this particular EC2 machine is get restarted. This particular EC2 machine got restarted. What will happen? Now our public IP is changed. Now the person from the outside world can get this, can log on to this particular machine IPv4 using that public IP, because the EC2 machine public IP is changing whenever it is restarted. Now how? You all know what network file sharing is. Some FTP or file sharing, you all know this. We'll make something called sharing. We'll use some IP address. We'll use something IP address colon that particular location, and we'll get the information, or we'll share the information. Now what is happening here? This public IP is getting changed. Next time when you log on to that particular machine, when you want to access some file, or when you want to access that particular database, are you getting that particular information? Can you get that? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
So, is my screen visible, sir?
Your screen is visible, sir.
Yes. Okay. Now, Shekhar sir, I just have a small question to you. Now, this public, you are using something called NFS, network file sharing, and you are sharing a directory, or you are sharing a folder of your to the all the people, all your clients to the outside world. Now what is happening is your EC2 machine got restarted. You have given a sharing path to the users. Now what is happening is that sharing path is having something called public IP, and your complete path of the sharing file. Now what is happening is your EC2 machine got restarted and your public IP is changed. Now will that sharing is happening after the restart?
I don't think so, sir. The sharing will happen.
So
because
then how?
Outside world is knowing me using that public IP.
Yes. So now what is happening? It is going to be a disadvantage now. I'm using an EC2 machine, and this public IP is not static. This public IP is going dynamic when I restart the machine. So what Amazon has done is, Amazon has got an option called elastic IP. For this particular thing, Amazon has got a new feature called elastic IP, and how do we associate an elastic IP to this particular virtual machine is simply go to services, select EC2. So now what my feature, now what I want to do is I have something called my EC2 machine. To this particular EC2 machine, I have to keep an elastic IP. I have to keep a static IP. Even my machine got restarted, that should not be changed. So click on this left side, you just go down and you will have something called an elastic IP. Okay, select elastic IP. Now you want to allocate an elastic IP. Select elastic IP and just simply leave it is just go for allocate. Now you are ready with an IP address. Your Amazon is ready with an IP address. So this IP address is ready. Now you want to use this particular IP address. You want to use this particular IP address.
Associate.
You want to use this particular IP address to my EC2 machine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actions. I'm going to associate my elastic IP. Select associate IP. Choose instances, and I want to associate it to the machine called my EC2 machine. And just select associate.
Successfully allocated, sir.
Now go for this particular first. Sorry, 1 second. This elastic IP is 44.227, and I'll just go for virtual machine now, and I'll just refresh. Is my public IP is changing now? Previously it was 34, now it was gone to 44. Now how can we say that this is an elastic IP? How it is not changing? We'll do one thing, we'll just stop this machine and we'll see even after our restart also this elastic IP should be there. So what I'll do is I'll just take a
Sir?
Yes, sir.
Till it starts, may I ask one question?
Yes, sir. Tell me.
Right now we have seen the public IP and elastic IP. I just want to know that when we are going to use public IP and in which cases we are going to use the elastic IP.
Okay. For example, we are an organization and we are sharing some file, or we are storing some file and we are using some database. Now, if all our clients are on a private IP, if all our clients are on AWS, then we will use a private IP. If our clients are not on an AWS network, if they are accessing to our machine or if they are accessing to our website from the outside world, then we are going to use a public IP. Is my answer clear, sir?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
So I'll just go for this instance state and I'll just stop this instance now. See, sir, the machine is stopped, but still the public IP is there. Now, I want to say one thing is Amazon charges for every access. Like whatever we do, whatever option we select, Amazon charges. The only Amazon does not charge when you are not using that particular thing. But when it comes to the elastic IP, Amazon charges when you are not using the elastic IP. I mean, this particular virtual machine is stopped now. Now Amazon keep charging keep charging for this public IP. When this particular machine is started, Amazon does not charge your elastic IP. This is the only service in AWS where you are being charged when you're not using that. Are you all clear, sir?
Yes, sir. Yeah, sure. Clear.
So Amazon is charging for every service you are using it, but Amazon is not charging for only this particular service when you're not using that particular service. You already selected the service and you're not using that particular service. Now I already have a public IP and I'm not this public IP machine is not running now, so Amazon keeps charging. Amazon keeps billing. Now when I start this machine, Amazon stops its billing now. So what I'm doing is I'm again starting this particular machine. See, sir, now the public IP is changed. Yes or no?
No, sir.
The public IP is not changed. See, sir, I have taken a snapshot. The public IP was 209.150. The public IP is 209.150. Now, what happened is the development team of your organization haven't shared the public IP. It has shared something called a private IP to the customers. Now, what happened is your machine got restarted. Then how? Then how, sir? So we can also there is no problem even your private IP there is no problem because your private IP is not changing every time. But we can also have a private IP in the same way how the static it is, how static. So we can assign multiple private IPs or multiple public IPs to a virtual machine now. This option we have in Amazon. So we can associate another elastic IP to the same virtual machine, and we can share that particular elastic IP also. So this option is possible in AWS. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Now I have created this particular machine. Now what I want to do is if you try to uninstall if you try to terminate this machine, what happens? Can you see? So already public IP is associated to this, so I'll just try to terminate this instance. So this particular machine is getting down, but on the background, what it is running now? My public IP is running. Yes or no, sir?
Yes, yes, sir.
So it is a better learning that, for example, if we are attaching an elastic IP, first what we are supposed to do is we have to deassociate that particular elastic IP from the virtual machine. Then we have to terminate the virtual machine. In this case, what is happening is, what I have done is I have terminated this virtual machine, but what is happening? We forgot to terminate this elastic IP, but we have terminated the virtual machine. In the background, what is happening is this elastic IP is still running. So it is a better process. It is a better learning that we have to deassociate that particular IP. We have to terminate our virtual machine. So deassociate this particular elastic IP. See, it is saying that this elastic IP does not exist. So it takes some time. to move it from the panel. So this is how we create an elastic IP. Now what we can tell our students is, you create a database, you start sharing from your EC2 machine. So that even your machine is restarted, your access to that particular database is not removed, or you're sharing to that particular drive onto the EC2 machine is not removed. So this is how we tell our students to create a virtual machine and elastic IP. How we use elastic IP. If you're not using this elastic IP, whenever we restart it, whenever our EC2 machine is restarted, we cannot share that particular database or file sharing, drive sharing on that particular virtual machine. So we are going to face these particular problems in real world. So it is better we use an elastic IP, and with that elastic IP, you associate it to the virtual machine. Is it clear, sir?
Yes, sir.
And we'll go with an additional feature now. What we'll do is, we'll go here, sir. So we'll see something called block storage. Now what this block storage is, now I'll take this EC2 machine, and I'll just try to connect. Before trying to connect, what I'll do is, I'll go for storage, select storage, and you're having only 10 GB. So what I want to do is, I want to add an additional storage to this disk. Volumes, go to volumes, select this EC2, and you want to create a volume. So I want to create a volume of 20 GB. Create a volume. Now your volume is being created. How you can know that the volume is created or not? I'll just open a new tab, and on this particular tab, I already opened a new tab. Go to this EC2 and go to the storage. You can see only one. It takes some time to reflect additional volume. So select this, go for actions. I went to volumes. I want to attach this volume. Okay, it was created on another availability zone. One second, I'll just. So here my machines are on US West 2C, and this has been created on US West 2A. So at the time of creating, what I'll do is, I'll select availability zone as US West 2C. I'll just give another 20 GB. I'll create a volume. Now you can see on the volumes, you can see this On the USBTC, you all have an additional storage. You just select this, go for, and you want select this attach volume. You can see something called EC2. I'll select the virtual machine, attach. Now go for the EC2, go for instances, select EC2, and on the down you can see the additional database, sir. So is my machine is down by adding this additional disk? Yes, sir.
No, sir, no.
Is my machine is down? But in a real
No,
world,
sir.
if you want to add an additional disk, what you require? You require some downtime.
Yeah, sure, sir. We require.
But in this position, have we stopped our virtual machine?
No, sir.
We haven't stopped our virtual machine, but still we are able to get that particular additional storage. So this is something called you are adding an additional disk to the existing machine. So there are 5 different types of additional disks we can add, and what are those we'll see. So EBS provides a persistent block storage volume for use within an EC2 instances in the. So what in overview I'll say is, for every availability zone, you can create some storage and you can add it onto the running machine, or you can add it for the future purpose. So I have created a storage, and what I'm going to do is next time if I want to say now this particular EC2 machine is associated with this particular 20 GB. Now what I'm going to do is, when I log on to this machine, I'll just store all my files in this particular drive, itself. And what I'm going to do is, next time I want to terminate this machine, but still you want to use this particular 20 GB onto the other machine. How it is possible? Is it possible in our real world?
No, sir. Not in real world, sir.
In a real world, it is not possible to use this 20 GB again. So but in AWS, what you can do is you can deassociate. So go for volumes again. Select this 20 GB which we are using. Go for actions, detach volume. Select S detach.
सर वर्कशॉप चालू है. शाम को कॉल करो. हाँ.
See, it has been detached. Now again go for instances.
शाम को क्योंकि मेरा अभी वर्क चालू रहता है सर.
Sir, can you mute, sir? Sir, can you mute, sir? Now go for EC2. Just refresh. Now you can see only one machine now. So what happened? The 20 GB which I have created is detached now. Now you what happened is, when you attach that particular machine, that particular volume to this EC2, you have stored some data, and you want to access that particular data onto the other machine. Now what happened is, I have another machine running on my AWS. So what I'll do is I'll take this lamp in Ubuntu, and what I'll do is I'll attach this 20 GB onto this particular machine. Go for volumes, select this, go for actions, attach volume. Now I want to attach it to lamp in Ubuntu, attach. Just refresh. Okay, it is in use. How we can check is go for instances. Just on the down you can see only one attached. Just refresh it. Select LAMP in Ubuntu. On the down you can see this 20 GB is added. So without any downtime, what we are doing is we are attaching multiple disks onto our machine. Now we are basically having this block storage is of 5 types. AWS is having 5 different types of block storages. We'll have something called general purpose block storage, provisional IOPS, throughput optimized, cold HDD, EBS magnetic. What are all these type of elastic block storages is? Just see here. Now this by default we'll get general purpose storage, and that volume will start with 1 GB to 16 GB. So if we want to add an additional general purpose storage, we can start it from 1 GB to 16 GB. So we can that particular file system, that particular storage, you can see it as a GP2. Now we'll go this. You can see the format. It is of GP2. GP2 in the sense it's a general purpose. By default, all EC2 machines will take GP2. Now, what is the difference between general purpose and provision purpose is provision purpose will start its storage with a minimum of 4 GB to 16 GB, and you can see a only difference is IOPS, input output provisions per second. So what is this input output provisions per second? In a real world, we'll have something called in our Windows we'll have something called ext4 file system, and we'll have something called NTFS. What is the difference between ext4 and what is the difference between NTFS is something is its number of operations per second and its a storage capability. So in the same way, your general purpose will have 16,000 IOPS per second, and your provision IOPS will have 64,000 IOPS per second. And your throughput hard disk drive is starting with a minimum of 500 GB and it is up to 16 terabytes, sorry. And your cold hard disk drive is with 500 GB and 16 terabytes. It can last up to 16 terabytes. And this was the first feature which EBS magnetic was the first feature when Amazon was launched. This was the first feature we was having. It starts with a minimum 1 GB and it is still till up to 1 terabyte. There are some machines on AWS which are still using EBS magnetic, but now we are at today's world we are using only general purpose disks. Yes, sir. Are you all clear? I have said something called volume. Without any downtime, we have attached this particular volume to our EC2 machine. Yes, are you all clear, sir?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So, something, Aisha ma'am, can I continue or can we stop for the day?
Sir, I think for the day we can conclude, sir. Today I will share this video to all the participants. Actually, we are not supposed to share them directly. We have to just upload into YouTube and then give the link. So I'll do for this video, sir. Let them practice what all has been explained today so that it will become comfortable tomorrow.
Okay.
And I request all the participants, whatever queries you have, please write to me. You all have my mail ID, aishabanuvce@gmail.com. I'm just typing in the chat box so that I will send it to sir. And tomorrow when sir comes for the session, he can clear all your doubts first. Then we can go for the next one, aishabanuvce@gmail.com.
You can also directly ping to me, sir, practice for AWS4004@gmail.com. You can directly ping to me and I'll explain you with all your queries. And one thing I just want to give you is Just try with this link. Try with this link for GitHub.
Yeah, I request the participants take a screenshot or make a note of all this, because once we are out of the meeting, the chat can't be visible.
So select this this file, and you can. I think so. Now you can get when you download this GitHub, you'll get a PuTTY terminal, sir. When you install this particular for Windows setup, you'll get a PuTTY terminal now. So, ma'am, I'll just share you this particular link also. Can you please share it to all the participants
Yes,
for the
sir,
GitHub?
yes, sir. Yeah, sure, sir. We have a WhatsApp group. I'll put into that.
Okay. And if you are facing once again, I want to say, if you are facing some issue with your AWS free time accounts, just contact the support team. If it was not if it was not activated because of your payment, please try with an Visa card, any credit card which is having an Visa, and just try to make some payment. And it will take, obviously, it will take some 24 hours to 48 hours. You just speak to support center whether the transaction is successful or whether you can get all your queries. You can you can shoot onto your contact center. So it's a just small thing. And sorry, one thing I haven't forgot is by default AWS provides 250 hours of virtual machine. After 250 hours, everything is charged. So how much it is charged, I'll just show you.
We need to terminate the instance.
Yes, sir, you have to terminate. So I can show you one minute, sir. I'll show you the pricing. So T2.micro, and it is going to be charged 0.0116 per hour. So it is not so much charged, but after your free 250 hours per month, only 250 hours per month, you can get a free time. So you can use one virtual machine for around the month. But if you are using more than one virtual machine, then it is going to be charged 0.0116 per hour. So you can, sir, can you unmute, sir? So this is the pricing. You can get it directly by typing it on Google, AWS EC2 pricing. You can see this, the pricing charges. And you can also see the features are over here. 32 GB of memory, and it is of 8 cores. 8 core. It is only charging of 0.3712. See, if a new organization wants to create a large database for only 1 or 2 days, so they may opt this. They are not required to purchase a large infrastructure for the single day or for 1 or 2 days. They can use these particular resources. So what is happening? They are paying some 50 to 60 rupees per month for their limited usage for 1 or 2 days, and they can use this particular machine. Earlier days, what we are supposed to do is we are going to purchase that and we are going to make. But now what is happening is with the 50 or 60 rupees, you can use that particular machine for 1 or 2 days and you can terminate it after that. So this is one advantage you got today. So more advantages and more the things, more about the features, only with the EC2 features we'll learn tomorrow. And how you terminate your virtual machine, I'll show you. Just go for, just select the machine, only one machine. Go to actions, not actions. Sorry, I'm on volumes. Go for instances. Go for my EC2 machine. I want to go for instance state. I think it is already terminated. I'll go for EC2. EC2 is already running. I just want to terminate it. So instance state. You can stop the service or you can terminate the service. If you are stopping, you are not going to get billed. If you are terminated, the complete machine is going to be terminated. So I request all to terminate your machines once you are stopped using.
Sir, after how to remove for the console?
Console. Sorry.
Sir, after termination, can we remove them from the console? I mean, from the portal, AWS.
It is automatically going to move, sir.
Okay.
Sir, one small doubt.
Yes, sir.
It's Shekhar from Shidi. Sir, in Amazon AWS, can we see, or from where we can see how many hours we have used our virtual machine?
Yes, sir. I'll show you. That is, I'll explain you when you are using something called billing. On the services, you have something called billing.
Okay.
And you come to down, you can see your usage. So this was my usage for the 750 hours. I already used 185 hours. So 30 GB is free for volumes. Up to 30 GB is free. So I have used 8.02. So you are starting a machine. You are using it for 1 minute. It is calculated as 1 hour.
Pardon, sir. I didn't understand last sentence.
Now you have created a virtual machine. You have used that particular machine. You used that particular machine only for 2 to 3 minutes. Even it is taken into 1 hour.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Are you clear?
I understood it.
Everyone?
Yeah, clear, sir.
Yeah, Dr. Prakash is speaking, sir. Please, 1 second, sir. My voice is audible, sir?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Audible, sir.
Yeah. When I was creating EC2, the GitHub is, this page is open. Just I am sharing the screen. Please, 1 second, sir. You suggest me, is it perfect or not? This page opened, sir.
Skip the step. Skip this step is there, no, sir? On the down.
Not GitHub desktop, no?
No, not a GitHub. It's not a GitHub desktop.
Okay, sir. Just I want to confirm, sir.
Sir, I already shared you the other link, direct link. Can you see it on the chat? Once again, I'll share you.
Yes.
Atal.
This one, sir.
Sir, you share it to my WhatsApp also, sir. I'm going to share in the WhatsApp group.
Yes, sir.
And this video I am going to upload in the YouTube, and mostly by 7 or 7:30 I'll be sharing the link with you. For now, this I'm definitely going to do because you will be practicing tonight and be prepared for tomorrow's session.
So I request all you to try with this normal launching of EC2 machine and one Elastic IP. Elastic IP, you can see the video and you can do that.
Please write to me if you have any queries. Tonight I will forward it to sir so that directly sir will address the queries after we start the session tomorrow. Then we can go for tomorrow's agenda. Okay, Vinod sir, thank you so much. In spite of so much of chaos and all at the beginning, finally I'm happy that we all came into one single pace. Hope the remaining 2 afternoons are also going to be very productive for us. Our participants will be eagerly waiting for tomorrow. Thank you so much, sir. Vinod sir.
Yes, thank you everybody.
Thank all the participants also for your active participation. And sorry at the beginning, you people were not knowing what to do, how to go, but slowly we have come into a common understanding by the end of the session. So hopefully tomorrow and day after will go more smoothly. Thank you so much. See you tomorrow morning.
Thank you, ma'am.